You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How can you become something new if you have not first become ashes? True and lasting personality change is something that is incredibly difficult to achieve. We often get stuck in our habits, our lives and identities, even if we are not truly happy with who we are.
I have watched all of my colleagues and friends surpass me in every way imaginable, and within 18 months, I will be dead.
Most of us have the desire to continually evolve and improve ourselves, but simultaneously this proves very hard. As Academy of Ideas points out,
most models of human development place tight bounds around our capacity for self-directed change. For we are a conservative creature. We crave order and have a deep need for a stable sense of self.
The traditional approach to changing yourself is one of small incremental steps, a gradual change by breaking down bad habits and slowly creating better ones. But as we all know, more often than not, this is easier said than done. Breaking through bad habits, installing new ones and completely reshaping your personality is extremely challenging, as we humans have a deep desire for a solid sense of self.
Yeah, well, I embrace it. Shit. I choose to drink.
You do?
Yes, I do.
You choose it? Well, I don't see a whole lot of choice going on here.
I choose to drink, and I blame myself.
Adopting new habits and personality traits is then met by our own psychology with a lot of resistance. The problem, however, is that we are aware that the identity that we are so attached to often does not fully serve us anymore. We know that there are aspects of our personality that are standing in the way of our potential, and thus we are not free. Now, in this video, Academy of Ideas offers a different approach to personality change. As he points out, rapid personality transformations do not occur very often to those content with life, but are more likely to occur to those who have reached the darkest pits of despair. This idea of a psychological rebirth through a descent into chaos, into hell, has been explored by various psychologists. As Carl Jung argues, sacrifice always means the renunciation of a valuable part of yourself, and through it the sacrificer escapes being devoured. The idea that chaos and disaster can set us free is deeply rooted in many of our myths, and we are aware of its potential. And because of this, in my earlier video, The Freedom We Find in Chaos and Disaster, I've explored the concept of lachesism as defined by the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. The idea is that we consciously or subconsciously know that a disaster can change us, and therefore we actually long for it. It is the desire to be thrown into chaos, to witness the end of the world, a clear and definitive wake-up call, to be forced to let go of all our mundane worries that do not truly matter.
I prayed for a crash, or a mid-air collision, anything.
Lachesism then is the paradoxical longing for a disastrous event on either a personal or larger scale.
You understood what I've just said to you.
Yes. Lung cancer. Inoperable.
An event that will force us to radically change our personality and free ourselves of our own limitations. We want to be forced to become who we know we are meant to be.
Jesse, you asked me if I was in the meth business or the money business. Neither. I'm in the empire business.
In my video, I explored 3 character studies that exemplify such a radical personality change through a descent into chaos, in Breaking Bad, Fight Club and The Joker. For each of these characters, a personal disaster led to a sense of power and freedom, for better or worse. But recently I've been reflecting on the concept of lachesism and what a descent into chaos and disaster can bring for your life. It is important to note that it does not always lead to a positive radical personality change. It might be true that the shattering of our identities through a disaster can offer the opportunity to rebuild better, but we must not underestimate how broken such events can leave us. In order to explore the merits and limitations of this concept, I think we first have to make an important distinction between a voluntary descent into chaos and an involuntary descent into chaos. Now, with a voluntary descent, we might think of actively trying to hit rock bottom.
She needs to hit rock bottom.
The idea is that our habits are so hard to break, we can only start to move back up when we are at an absolute low, a point so low that we have no choice to move into a better direction. However, I think this is definitely not the right approach to a voluntary descent into hell, because what is rock bottom? Often it only reinforces compulsive, self-destructive habits. Hitting a lowest point after which we turn our lives around might sound like a beautiful comeback story, but more often than not, the lowest point of our self-destructive behavior is death, which there is no coming back from. A more interesting approach to using chaos and disaster in our lives then is the active pursuit of experiences that directly change our personalities for the better. This sounds, of course, as the gradual approach of slowly implementing new habits and personality traits. However, I would argue that it is more than that. A radical and immediate, or at least quickly realized personality change can come from an aggressive approach to facing one's own demons. This can either be a hard and immediate stop of self-destructive habits, which will be extremely painful in the short term, but is also the fastest way to change. It can also be the aggressive implementation of new behavioral patterns and desensitizing yourself to experiences that we perceive to be outside the realm of our identity. For example, for someone with social anxiety, either in general or within a romantic context, this means forcing oneself to massive social and romantic interaction. A bat phobia means immersing yourself in a cave full of bats, and beating a fear of heights can be done through taking up climbing multiple times a week. Of course, we are all aware of the concept of stepping outside of your comfort zone. However, I always feel like this does not do justice just to how tough and confronting personality change is. Implementing new behavioral patterns and confronting your fears is truly painful.
But while novel forms of order are crucial for the ascent from the realm of chaos, experiments with novelty are stressful and often accompanied by intense states of fear and anxiety.
Each step into a new personality trait is also destabilizing one's current self. And more than just stepping outside of your comfort zone, it is truly a descent into chaos and, in some sense, hell. We deliberately choose to experience stress, fear, and pain in order to break ourselves down and rebuild better. We choose to engage with danger, our demons, and the unknown. Now, although a voluntary descent into chaos and disaster is painful, it does still offer a sense of control, and it has meaning attached to it. We actively seek to change ourselves for the better. But as I discussed before, life can also put us into an involuntary descent into chaos and disaster, and some life events can truly break us into pieces.
My wife died early this year. Breast cancer. And it broke me.
It is natural for us, especially when we are young, to plan for our life as a natural progression. We might be unhappy with ourselves, but we have the hope that by actively seeking out adversity, we can better our personalities and our lives. Unfortunately, life often doesn't work like that. And although I do think the concept of lachesism is valid, and there are many stories of people doing great things after suffering a devastating personal tragedy, we cannot underestimate the destructive impact such events have on our life. Life can be undeniably cruel and unfair.
And this will not be a fight, Jane. This is going to be a very heavy defeat.
A horrific diagnosis, becoming a victim of rape, violence or war, a wrongful incarceration taking away years of your life, a debilitating disease or losing a loved one, a mother, father, a spouse, or even losing a child. These are major tragedies that unfortunately too many of us experience during our lifetime. And we cannot look at these life events and simply say, well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Use this strategy to reinvent yourself. Life events like these can break us into pieces, and rebuilding ourselves is not an easy task. Academy of Ideas also points out that a descent into hell does not always have a way back.
But an involuntary sacrifice is, according to Jung, an unmitigated catastrophe, it is more likely to result in a psychological breakdown than a psychological rebirth.
One thing that makes an involuntary disaster so devastating is that it is the destruction of hope. In Everything is Fucked, a book about hope, Mark Manson writes that hope has three main ingredients: a sense that there is potential for growth, improvement or salvation in the future, a sense of community, and a sense of control over our own lives. Where hope is actually found at the root of the pain and suffering that we voluntarily choose, an involuntary disaster often both destroys our hope for a better future and our sense of control.
Tumor? Yes. Me? Yes. that doesn't make any sense though. I mean, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I recycle.
How could this happen to us? Why did this happen to us? Is the universe just random? Is there no meaning? Nothing we can do? Such an involuntary disaster can lead to a cold and bleak nihilism. A feeling of I can't control anything, life is suffering and everything is meaningless. And at worst, this nihilism can lead to people inflicting pain on themselves on purpose because they don't care anymore, or even inflicting pain on others. So how then do we navigate these realities? What is the place of voluntary and involuntary disasters in our life? I don't really think that there is an easy answer to this. Bruce Lee famously said, "Do not pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." And I would argue, yes, we should pray and hope for strength.
Courage, Mary. Courage for our friends.
But this does not mean that we should pray for a difficult life. I do not wish for horrific tragedies to befall anyone. No one should lose a child or a loved one too early. No one should become a victim of abuse, rape or war or be wrongfully incarcerated. I pray for all of us to have easy, long, healthy lives without major tragedies or disasters, without heartbreaking losses, without unnecessary suffering or pain. But if we are so lucky, I also hope we have the wisdom to embark on voluntary journeys of chaos and proactive suffering. There is no need to wait for disaster to change ourselves for the better. No need to hit rock bottom first. No need to wait for a cancer diagnosis to build an empire, mad or otherwise. No need to only do everything on our bucket list until we get sick. On the other hand, the unfortunate reality is that many of us will not have completely easy lives. We will encounter involuntary disasters, heartbreaking and unfair experiences that will break us down. And I think we can't just say, well, endure it and use it to change yourself for the better. It is perfectly normal to be broken for a while, to mourn and to recover from not only the loss or disaster itself, but also the loss of hope, meaning and identity. We cannot downplay how hard it is to recover from major tragedies, but we also know that it is possible, that people have this incredible capacity of adapting.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Steve. Superb.
That we can slowly accept what happened and find new meaning, new hope for a better tomorrow. When life destroys us, the challenge is to not become self-destructive afterwards, or worse, become destructive to others. Instead, we have to try to find the light that came forth from the darkest of times. Alright, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'm gonna be writing some additional insights and ideas on the topics discussed in this video, and I want to do this through a weekly newsletter. So the first one is coming out tomorrow on Saturday. Every week on Saturday I want to write one featuring topics about personal development, of course film and book analysis and some reviews, and also some creative entrepreneurship stuff like my videos on how to be creative. So if you're interested in that, sign up using the link in the description below. Also, a huge thank you to Shortform for sponsoring this video. Now, if you haven't heard of Shortform, they offer guides to more than 1,000 plus non-fiction books. So you can learn their key points and gain additional insights into the book. Basically, they are book summaries on steroids. So I personally enjoy Shortform in two ways and use it almost every day. On the one hand, it is a great way to research new books that might be worth reading. We have so much information coming at us every day and more books to read than we can ever finish. Shortform has great one-page book summaries that will give you a quick sense of the book and what it is about. And this way you can explore different books and make decisions on what books are actually worth buying and what books are worth skipping. This way you can create a funnel of books and filter out the books that are not interesting to you and find those gems that actually are. Secondly, after you actually have finished the book, Shortform offers comprehensive book analysis and additional insights and exercises that can help you apply ideas from the book that you have just read. There's also a discussion community where readers can ask and answer questions about the books that they've read. So if you want to try Shortform out for free for 5 days, you can go to shortform.com/storytellers, or you can click the link in the description below. And if you enjoy it and want to keep using it, you can get a 20% discount on your annual subscription. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.